guys, thanks so much for stopping in. I sure appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about a couple different things since we're kind of creeping towards the end of January already. Holy cow, time is flying. But I thought we could talk about some of the things I decluttered from my collection and how I feel about declutters at this point. And then also I kind of want to talk about how 2024 went as a whole, as far as how many no-buy months did I have, how much money I actually spent, was I in budget, out of budget. So let's go ahead and just jump into that right now. I'm realizing I have a horrible lisp going on. I started a whole new Invisalign retainer tray set. It is real tight. I've got a funky lisp going on, so I apologize for that. But let's get into the declutter portion. I know not everybody might be here for one part or the other, so I will try to remember to put timestamps below. But we're going to start with the declutter and then talk about how 2024 went and how I see 2025 going for me. So let's just go ahead and get into the few items that I have decluttered. So I'm pretty proud of myself when it comes to a declutter, because at this point I feel like declutters are a good thing and a bad thing. Part of me feels like if I'm decluttering it, I'm wasting money. So with most products, if they don't work for me for whatever reason, I will do whatever I can to try and make it work for me so that I'm not essentially wasting my money or wasting product. I don't like returns for that reason as well, because I feel guilty returning a product that I know is going to have to be disposed of because it's been used or opened or whatever. So I do try really hard to make products work, but at some point either I've been using them and they are going bad, or they're just not working for me to the point where I haven't touched them in a year. So we kind of have a little slew of things going. Let's start with some products here. So I do have 4 eyeliners here. This one from Wet n Wild is actually a busted component, so I don't even use it anymore, and there's really not a whole lot left, so that's gonna go ahead and go. This one has no label on it. I don't know how long I've had it, and there's only about that much product left, so it's not super duper wasteful. But I don't even know what brand it is. I don't know how old it is. I don't even know where it came from, so this has got to go. Somebody came to say hello. Hi, Mapes. Okay, goodness. Oh, hi. Oh, no. Okay, we're good. Thank you, though. Okay, go play. Adios. I love dog, but not dog kisses to the face, right? Oh. Okay. Well, I've got a running child and running dog. Bear with me here. Life, man. But I do have these other 2 eyeliners. This one is LA Colors. This doesn't last. It doesn't show up. I like the color of it, but to be honest, and there is a lot of product, I have only used it a handful of times, but I can't, it doesn't work. It does not work for me. It doesn't last. It doesn't stay. It barely shows up on my skin, my waterline, none of that. So it's just going to go because it's been in my collection well over a year and I haven't touched it. And at one point I thought I was going to figure out liquid eyeliner, right? So I did pick up the Maybelline Master Precise All Day Matte Eyeliner. Never figured it out. I still don't love eyeliner. I use like a dark brown or a black eyeshadow as an eyeliner. Again, I don't know how long I've had it. I'm not going to use it. So this is one that I will actually pass along to a friend. The other 3 are just going to go into the garbage. I have one mascara that, this is the first mascara that I'm ever going to get rid of where I didn't actually use it all up first. I tried really hard to make this one work. It is the Big Mood mascara from e.l.f. And I just hate it. That's so harsh, but I do. I hate it. This is just nothing. It does nothing except just put clumps on my eyelashes. It doesn't create volume. It doesn't create lift. It doesn't even look like I'm wearing mascara after a few hours. I don't know what this is, but this isn't for me. And it's the first time I'm actually throwing away a mostly full mascara because I, one, can't find my receipt. I don't know how long I've had it. That guilt thing about returning stuff. But then this is where it goes, is I feel guilty for returning it, but then it sits in my drawer and goes bad anyways. It's so frustrating. I don't know how to stop that. And I think that's another big reason of why my goals for 2025 are the way they are, is because I don't want this cycle. I don't want this cycle anymore. So, but I am going to go ahead and get rid of this because it's doing nothing for me. I hate it. I have a friend who might use this. Maybe my sister might like it. If they don't, they can trash it, but I don't want it anymore. Did miss a lip product here, so we'll go back. This is the Essence Extreme Shine Volume Lip Gloss, and this one is in the shade Peach Please. I got this when I did the Pantone of the Year, which was Peach in 2024. There's nothing wrong with this product. It's actually very nice. The formula is pleasant, but it does have a lot of glitter in this, like not like gritty glitter, but like shiny glitter. And it's also truly what it comes out like. So here is the tube, and it really does come out to be this peachy of a color, which then gives me like concealer lip vibe, and I'm not that. I prefer a darker contrast when it comes to my lip color, not a lighter contrast. And this just makes everything so light, and I can't wear it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. The formula is lovely. The shade is not on me. Next product I have here is an eyebrow product, and it's the NYX The Brow Glue. And maybe you can tell I almost finished this, but I've had it for quite a while. I know I didn't buy it in 2024, so it had to have been a 2023 purchase. And while it was just okay, it's starting to get pretty clumpy and gooey, and it's just not smooth anymore, and it's leaving a lot of like flakes in my eyebrows. And I got to a point where a couple weeks ago I was like, I do not want to use this anymore. And then that's when I knew I needed to declutter, because I was like, I do not even want to touch that anymore. It's kind of grossing me out. So even though I wanted to finish it, it's not good, I don't think. So it's going to go ahead and go too. I have two complexion style products here. The first one is unfortunately another NYX product. It's the Bare With Me Concealer Serum. So you can see I've actually used quite a bit of it here. This empty space is everything I've used. I keep trying to want to love this, and I keep thinking I've got it finally figured out on how to use it on my skin and make it work for me, and it just doesn't seem to work, and I don't ever want to use it. I don't gravitate toward it. I don't excited to use it. I have to force myself to use it, and to me that is a problem. I should not have to force myself to use a product. And the thing with this is it's not a full coverage enough to cover blemishes or darker spots on my face that I want to conceal with my foundation or before my foundation. And it's too heavy on my under eyes. I keep thinking I've got it figured out. I put it in the right spot in the right amount at the right time. No, it's too hard to work with for me and my skin type and my skin concerns. So unfortunately, while it's not necessarily a bad product, it's just not a product that's working for me. And I do have 3 other concealers that I'm actually enjoying. I look forward to using on a daily basis, and this just isn't one. I do have a friend with my same undertone and skin type, so I'm hoping she can get some use out of this. If not, in the trash it goes, because I know it's getting up there in age as well. And the last one that's actually going to be like thrown away, because also, again, here we are about the age thing. So this is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. So you can see it's pretty full. I bought this at the peak of the hype, like when it first came out. So that should tell you how old this bottle is. The color is separating inside the bottle. Here's the thing is, I fell into the hype. I had some FOMO. I thought I needed it. I tried it. And around that time I got this, I started figuring out that I don't love a super glowy base on me. I don't love a super glowy foundation. I don't love a super glowy highlighter. Heck, I barely even wear highlighter. And that's where I went to go with this one. I was like, okay, I don't want to use it all over my face, but I can use it as a highlighter. I don't even wear highlight, you guys. So why am I still hanging on to this? I don't know. And when did this hype peak? When did this come out? 2022 maybe? So this needs to go. The age is clearly well over a year old. This is shade 2 in Fair Light. It was a great shade. It's a great product. It's a great formula. It just is not something I enjoy. Now that I know that about myself, I just don't buy glowy products anymore, but I think it's just time to get this out of my drawer. All right, and last but not least, I have palettes. Now, I declutter throughout the year because I find myself, especially during my No Pan Left Behind project, which we will also talk about when we get into the January topic, but I find myself decluttering throughout the year because I would go to use that palette for Project No Pan Left Behind. I'd find myself really dreading having to use it or having to force myself to use it, which told me I don't need that palette anymore, and I would get rid of it. So I periodically declutter throughout the year. So this is my final declutter for 2024. It is just 5 palettes. I did already kind of spoil this in my palette ranking, so I'll go ahead and start with this. This one up here is the ColourPop Peach Out palette. There's really nothing wrong with this palette. It's fine. The formula is fine. Like I said in my ranking video, there's just not enough variety. There's not enough depth in this one. I don't gravitate toward it. The shades look beautiful, especially against blue eyes, which I do have, and a little bit warmer undertone. So these do look really great on my skin tone. It's just not a color palette that I'm reaching for, and I don't really see myself reaching for it. I have a couple palettes that got peachy shades in it that I actually really do like wearing. So this one's just, it's perfect. I used it maybe twice or 3 times. I did complete No Pan Left Behind with it early last year. So I think it's just time to give it a new home. Another one here that I actually stopped the No Pan Left Behind on and decided to declutter, which isn't abnormal for me, because once again, when I get to a palette, if I use the first couple of shades and then I'm like, I don't want this anymore, I will stop and declutter at that point. Can you hear my kids screaming up there? I'm sorry. But this is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Lights Off palette. So this is actually a very beautiful palette. This is the color story right here. It actually is quite impressive as far as formula goes. I'm really struggling to make myself use this. I did use a few shades. I used this dark green, this dark red, this gray right here, this blue, and one of these lighter shimmers. It's just not, the shimmers are not as impactful as some of my other palettes. It is Wet n Wild. It's more of an affordable formula. There's just really not a whole lot wrong with it. It's just not one that I love. The mattes are hard to work with when I have really dry eyelids or my eczema flares up on my eyelids, which I do unfortunately have quite a bit of issues with. And it's always in my outer corner over here, so dark shades tend to either perform or not perform well on it. And this formula is just one that doesn't perform well on my super dry eyelids. I have to really work at it, and sometimes it's just more work than it's worth, and I'll end up switching to a different palette altogether. So the color story is beautiful, and I would still recommend this to someone who needs an affordable palette. This is a really, really great color story. It's just one that I'm not using, I'm not reaching for, and I do know someone who will actually get some great use out of this one. So this one, the formula is great. I love that it's a 5-pan. I actually decluttered, pulled it back, decluttered, pulled it back, decluttered, pulled it back several times because I do like the formula, and it is a nice little 5-pan palette. It's the ColourPop Out All Night palette. This is one of their Christmas releases from last year, 2022 releases, not 2023, 2022 Christmas. So I was using it during 2023, but it's this color story right here. Now I will say that I don't wear a whole lot of gray, as I'm wearing a gray crease today. But that's just it, is I have several palettes with this color story in it. I have plenty of blacks. This is a mid-tone gray, this is a dark gray, and then these two shimmers right here, even though this looks more white and this looks more silver in the pan, they don't swatch or look that much different on the eyes. I can put both of these shimmers right next to each other on my eyelid and it looks like one color across the lid. So that kind of eliminates a shade in there as far as being too similar to each other, even though they look so different in the pan. And then I don't wear grays that often. I do occasionally, like I am today, and it's more of like a dead of winter, I am freezing my butt off kind of color. But I have essentially this color story in the Natasha Denona Xenon palette, which I enjoy. I have it in the ABH Sultry palette, so I don't need more of these shades, and this is only those shades. It doesn't give me other shades to work with, so to me it just doesn't seem logical to keep it in my collection, and it's just another palette I'm going to feel guilty not using, so it's just going to have to get passed along at this point. So I have 2 more palettes left that I decluttered, and they're both actually from the same brand, which kind of broke my heart a little bit. But also I wasn't horribly sad to let one of these go, and the other one we'll talk about in a second. But the first one here is actually Sigma, and it's the Ivy eyeshadow palette. Now, that might surprise some of you considering this color story, and I've done several videos with this palette. And I always try to convince myself that I love the look I created. Reality is that I don't. I keep trying to lie to myself and be like, you like this look, you like this look. No, I do not. I do not like this look. I struggle with this palette so much. I don't love any look I create. I really don't. Again, I lie to myself saying you do, you spent your money on it, you need to love this palette. I don't at all. I don't enjoy using it. I have to force myself to use it. And coming into my blue era, I really thought, I'm like, oh yes, I'm going to love this Elixir shade right here. I'm going to love this shade right here. I don't. Sigma has a very non-sparkly, if you will, shimmer formula. It's more of like a metallic or like a really vibrant satin almost. And so I'm kind of in my more sparkly era. And so none of the shimmers really are doing much for me in this palette. And these are all cool tone browns, which I have in other places. I just don't enjoy this palette. The formula's okay. I just don't enjoy it. So even though I love Sigma and it breaks my heart, this just isn't a color story I'm loving to use. So why am I hanging on to it? I'm no longer hanging on to it. Bye-bye. Lastly, this one did break my heart a little bit, okay? This is the Sigma Untamed palette, okay? I really, really enjoyed this palette while I had it. But to be honest, once I did my No Pan Left Behind, I really just discovered that in theory, I like this palette, but in reality, I only like 4 shades, and that's this quad right here. And for a minute there, I thought, what if I just depotted these 4 shades and got rid of the rest of the palette? And then I did some swatches of it and some swatches of it and some swatches of it. Okay, I have a boatload of greens in my collection. Do I have this exact green? No, I don't. I have a boatload of warm neutrals. Do I have this warm neutral, this exact shade? No, I do not. And then these 2 shimmers right here. They're okay. They're not great. They're not my favorite shimmer formula from Sigma. They're just okay. So then I'm like, okay, so I'm hanging onto this palette for these 2 that I have similar shades of, but not exact. And then I started thinking, Michaela, really? You have very similar shades. Not exact, but similar. So what I ended up doing is all my similar greens to this one, I put this green on one eye and all the similar greens on the other eye. And guess what? On the eye, they're so dang close you don't notice the difference. So the same thing with this warm neutral. I said, look, Michaela, you put this one on one eye and I put all the similar shades in my collection, this one on the other eye. On the eyes, I really couldn't tell. So I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing? I need to let it go because I'm not going to use the rest of this palette. These reds right here, they're not my type of reds. This blue is too dark of a blue that I will use. These purples are subpar. This is a cool tone brown. I've got a matte black. I've got a matte white. These are okay, but not enough for me to want to keep and hang on to this palette. So even though it makes me really, really sad to let this one go, I'm going to. It's time to let it go because it's not worth hanging on for 4 shades. And out of the 4 shades, only 2 of them I really like. And 2 of them I have a lot of similar shades. It doesn't make any sense. Let it go, Michaela. So I'm letting it go. That's what I've decluttered for my collection. And I didn't do like a full palette collection, a full makeup collection at this point because, to be honest, I can do a full palette collection if I have an overwhelming majority asking for it. So if you want it, drop a comment. If not, we'll just move on. But as far as my makeup collection goes, I have a pretty curated and small makeup collection except for lip products and eyeshadows. So like I mentioned before, I have 3 concealers. I have like 4, maybe 5 foundations. I have one that's real close to being empty. We'll get more into that here in a few minutes, but I didn't film a whole collection, so I just thought I'd show you what I got rid of and why. Declutters for me are hard because I think, like I've already mentioned, I want to make it work because I've spent my money on it. I don't want it to be wasteful, but also I don't want good products that I enjoy using going bad because I've been trying to force myself to use the ones that I don't want to use. So declutters are painful for me in that they feel good, but also makes me feel guilty. So it's a catch-22 for me, but now I feel like my collection is in a good place, and now I think this is a good segue into my goals and plans for 2025. So before we get too deep into the goals, let's talk about what happened in 2024. Okay, so segueing into 2025, I made up my little binder here, and I put all the information from the year on the front just to kind of help keep me accountable, right? So looking at 2024 as a whole, let me pull up my notes here. My notes. Okay, so I saw Jen Phelps do this, and I was like, hey, that's a great idea. I should do that because I kept track of my purchases, my empties, and whatnot. So I spend, in case you're new here, when I buy a product, I count the tax as part of what I spent and round up to the nearest dollar. So if the product is $22, but after tax it was $24.81, I'm going to round it up to $25 because, yeah, the product was only so much, but tax is still my money coming out of my pocket on that product. So I include it and then I round up to the nearest dollar. So I might be a couple dollars higher than what I actually spent due to the rounding process, but I'd rather be a little high than a little low so I can keep myself a little more realistic and, accountable, So at this point, I'm a little embarrassed at how much I spent in 2024. My total spent was $1,574. My jaw hit the floor. I wrote that total out and went, oh, Michaela, you're in trouble. So I budget $100 a month. And when you break that total down by 12 months, it's roughly $132 per month. So you're thinking, oh, it's only $32 over a month, but that's times 12 months. You know what I mean? That adds up. So I failed. I failed miserably. I blew my budget. I failed. I absolutely failed 2024. So I really need to do better in 2025. There's no excuse. I've taken account of my collection. I've seen what I spent. And, you know, even spending that much, I had a total of 39 empties or declutters. So I did include palettes. Like I said, I sporadically declutter. However, that did not include what I just showed you in this declutter, because I did that after I totaled up 2024. So 39 plus whatever I just showed you is my totals for 2024 declutters. And I even had 2 months of no buys, 2 full months. I know February was a no buy, and I think there was a month, I think it was July was also a no buy. So with 2 months of no buys, 40 plus empties and declutters, I still was over budget by $32 a month for the entire year. Holy cow. I can't believe I spent almost $1,600 on makeup products. That's, in my world, it's unacceptable to spend that much in my financial position. I went through a lot of financial changes last year, and, you know, I sold a house and bought a house, and I made a major move across states. So knowing what my finances looked like last year and what financial position I was in, I had no business spending $1,600 on makeup. I really didn't. So that really put that in perspective for me for next year, or for this year, 2025. So that segues into my goals and situations. So at the as of December 31st, 2024, I had a total palette count of 62. So I had 62 palettes, and that's with these 5 decluttered. So I did include those 5 in the declutter. So taking those out, I started with 62 palettes and 4 singles. So a total of 66 eyeshadow products. Not bad. Not bad. Considering that I started 2024 with 64 palettes and 7 singles. So despite my excessive spending, I still came out with less. I came out with 2 palettes less and 3 singles less. That's awesome. I'm totally awesomely proud of myself for that one. That was a great move. So I went down. Despite all my purchases, I went down in product. That is awesome for me, okay? So where I'm at now is I'm an absolute zero, no buy, no exceptions lady for blush and highlight. Now, initially I had lip products on this list too. I have to be realistic with myself. I have a stupid amount of lip products, lip balms, glosses. I have like 2 lipsticks, I think. I'm not a lipstick girly, but glosses, balms, oils. I have too many. But I also know it's completely unrealistic for me to be on a complete no buy. So even though originally my goal said no buy on lip products, I think I'm going to put my no buy on like lip pencils and lipsticks. But I want to set a new rule for myself for lip products and maybe do like a 3 out, 1 in. And because I'm actually focusing on 2 lip products right now, and I'm seeing the progress on those 2 lip products, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel good about this. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do like a 3 out, 1 in on lips. As of right now, I'm on a no buy, but I do think I will probably change that because that's not realistic for me. And I will start panicking halfway through the year and then totally just blow the no buy out of the water. So I need to make it realistic for me, and I think that's where I'm going to go. But as far as everything else, I am on what I'm calling a replacement buy only. So that is for bronzers, eyebrows, as far as like gels and pencils, primers, mascaras, foundations, and concealers. Those are all replace buy only. So I have to completely use up a product before I can purchase another one, whether it just simply be a replacement of that same product or trying something new. But I have to completely finish one of those products before I'm allowed to move on to a new product, which that entire category, I don't overspend anyways in those categories. I don't have too many of those. Like as an example, my bronzer, I have 2 creams and 2 powders. I've hit pan in one of the creams and one of the powders. I'm about to hit pan in the other powder. So I feel good about that, and I'm not craving any new bronzers, so I'm really good with that right now. Eyebrow gels and pencils. I have 2 eyebrow gels and 2 eyebrow pencils, and I love them, and I have no desire to change that process, so that'll be easy. Primers. I have 2 primers. They're fine. I'm happy with them. I have no desire to try anything new. Mascaras. I have 2 open, and both of them are almost gone, and I have 1 backup already. I'm good. I don't feel the need to rush out and buy new mascaras. Same thing with foundation and concealer. I have a couple of each, and I'm happy with their performance. I'm not itching for a new one, so I think I'm going to be okay in those categories. We're ready to go. So some things I've set for myself is I want to keep my palette count for a total of 70 or less. So I don't want to cross that 70 mark threshold. So if I buy, we had 62 palettes to start the year, so I can't buy more than 8 palettes unless I declutter some. So that's my goal for the year. We'll see how that goes. Singles, I want to keep at 5 or less. I'm currently at 4. I'm not a super big single girl, so I really don't see that increasing. I have 4 singles in specific shades that I need or want to complete a lot of my looks with matte palettes, so I don't see that changing either, so I feel good about that. And then the final thing for 2025 is sitting on a purchase for 1 week before purchase. So for me, as soon as an item is revealed, I have to sit on it for 1 full week. And you know what? It's already deterred me from buying like 3 different things. So I sit on it for a week, and after that week, I'm like, yeah, I'm good because something else came out, and I can sit on that for a week, and then I can be like, nah, I'm good. I can wait for this one. So really sitting on that palette purchase or that mascara purchase or whatever it is, let's be real, mainly it's lips and eyes. But if I can sit on those for a week, it usually kind of curbs that enthusiasm I have for wanting to get it, and it's working really well for me so far. I will let you know that I did sit on the Lethal and Dexter for however long that information was out, and I did end up purchasing the palette and the brush set. So, but I sat on that for a month, and I knew the minute it was released, I'm like, I still want these really, really bad. So I did purchase those. The Twilight New Moon, I did get it. I sat on it not quite a week, but I was like obsessing over getting it. So I knew I had to get that one. So I think it was day 7 of sitting on it that I finally ended up getting it. So, you know, that's just where I'm at for 2025. I really want to focus on that 1 week waiting period, and it seems to help me quite a bit so far. And then this year, I know I did, for 2024, I did a project No Pan Left Behind, and I'm still not quite done with it. I've now included the palettes I've purchased in December of 2024, which I did not include in my ranking, nor did I include in my No Pan Left Behind. I'm actually working on those now. So I do have a few palettes that I'm still working on finishing up, but I'm actually not going to do a whole new No Pan Left Behind. If you don't know what I'm talking about, essentially I just wanted to use every single shade in my collection. And that really helped me narrow down the palettes I liked, the palettes I didn't like, the formulas I liked, didn't like, the color stories I like and don't like. So that was really eye-opening for my collection, and it allowed me to see how much I really have of each color story and each shade. And it's really deterred me from buying a whole lot of other things. So I'm really proud of that. It worked out really well for me, but I don't want to do that again this year. Now, any new incoming palettes into my collection, I will still do a No Pan Left Behind, and I will put up a little image to show you with my newest palettes what that looks like right now. You will see it kind of marked up already because I've already started keeping track of that. Trying to get to it here in my little book, but I will scoot over and pop it up right here so you can see that I've already completed the Cosmic Beauty Winter Wonderland palette. I'm almost done with the Vidsy palette and the CXC Out of Luck palette. So this is something that I will continue doing, is using every shade that's a new palette coming in, but I'm not doing it for my entire existing collection at this point because I've already done it. I've already used every shade in my existing collection. So at this point, what I'm doing now is I will scoot over just a little bit again so I can pop up a picture here. I have listed every single palette I own as of January 2025. It is 2 pages long, and you will see on the back end there, I did add the ColourPop New Moon and the Lethal and Dexter collab I will add when it's actually physically in my hands. But you can see a few tally marks here and there. Essentially what that is I'm giving myself the freedom to pick and choose palettes that I want. And what I like about this freedom is it allows me to see what palettes I'm driven to without any projects in mind or without any leading factors. So what I mean by that is like nobody telling me what to use and what not to use, like my No Pan Left Behind was doing. So I want to see what palettes I am continually using, what palettes I'm continually gravitating towards. And so I tally up every time I use that palette. And then at the end of the year, if I have any palettes that I didn't touch, I need to assess why I didn't touch it and does it need to stay in my collection at that point. I think this is going to be a great way to see what I am actually loving and what I'm just hanging on to. I hope that makes sense. So I don't know if I'm going to make it the whole year. It is my intention to do that this year. And I would like to come and update you guys like quarterly so you can see what I was using for 4 months at a time. And I just think it'll be a whole lot of fun to see what my subconscious is choosing. And I've also kind of developed it too. You will see that, I'll scoot back over so I can pop it back up. You will see that I have a numbered column. I numbered all my palettes because if I ever get to a day where I'm not craving a particular color story or a particular palette, or I really just don't care what I'm wearing that day, I can use a random number generator and have it pick the palette for me. And I think I'm ultimately going to color code my tally sheet, and I'll make one color saying that I chose this one and the other one will be as a random number generator. Because if I have a random number generator generating the same, palette 2 or 3 times a year, but I didn't choose to use that one, that might open my eyes toward, well, why didn't I want to use that palette? Why did I have to have it picked for me? I think it'll be fun and really eye-opening for me, a new way to see my collection without being forced to use everything. So, yeah. And I just kind of tucked it all in here, and I did put all of my goals and my, and notes and everything on the front of this binder. It's a really just cheap and cheesy. I'm not trying to be all fancy this year like I was last year. And then I did also create new tracking sheets this year. I will pop this up. I should have just scoot over at the beginning of this, but I'll pop it up here. You can see I have a January, February section, and I have one throughout the entire year, of course. But I'm just going to document products in and products out. Same way I did last year, just on a little bit less pretty spreadsheet. But it's there, it's existing. So I will continue to keep track of purchases like that so we can kind of see if I did better in 2005. Holy crap. 2025 versus 2024. But my friends, that is it with me today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I sure appreciate you, and I will catch you in my next one. Later much.